Woke up with some snow and then morning commute, plenty of it. This is Kentucky Roll Call on Big X Sports Radio. I am TJ Walker, back after a little weekend getaway on Thursday and Friday. Appreciate Stephen Peak and Matt Childress holding things down while I was out. But we've got a lot to talk about. It was a busy, newsworthy weekend. Stephen Peak, how are you doing, buddy? Still, you are muted. You are muted. Matt, how are you? Since you're not muted.
I'm good. Like you said, pretty news-heavy weekend. We got the college football playoff selection. Had the championship weekend. Had Kentucky Gonzaga. Had Louisville versus Indiana. It was a lot to watch this weekend. It was fun. It was a fun time. Went and saw Zootopia.
Is it working now? You saw Zootopia. Yeah, Peak, it's working.
Yeah, I saw Zootopia 2 this weekend. That was a great movie, honestly. Pretty surprised. Usually sequels like that for animated movies don't go so well. I was impressed. It was a fun time.
My wife and daughter saw it about a week ago. They loved it. I've been surprised by how many adults are like, man, that was just a fun movie. Supposedly there's themes about how oligarchs will just put up puppet politicians to do their bidding. And it's actually a little deeper than just like a fun little kids movie.
No, yeah, the whole time I was watching it, I was like, are kids supposed to understand what I'm getting in this movie? Like, they're probably seeing like the funny seals and sea lions, like, ha, Dad, look at that. And I'm like, dude, this is depressing.
That was the 4-year-old's big takeaway was, Dad, there are bad guys. There are bad guys in the movie. And she doesn't like bad guys. So I was like, oh, well, that's good. They didn't win, did they? And she was like, no. She was excited about it. Well, good. Going and seeing a movie is always a good time. Pete, I think we have you.
Yeah, I was saying doing okay, all things considered, here in Lexington, Kentucky. Just got done talking with Denzel Aberdeen, Jasper Johnson, who are available today. Yeah, man, that was one of the darkest days in Kentucky basketball history. When you ask me what's going on, with me, I know that I just go right into it because that's what's going on with me. So my mood and my days, I feel like, are at this time of year are tied into what Kentucky basketball is doing, and that was, as you experienced as well, just a miserable night in Nashville. It was been a really weird and long week. A couple positives sprinkled in the middle of between Tuesday and Friday, but yeah, just waiting for things to turn around and get us back to. I'm so tired of going on these shows and being negative, TJ. I'm so sick of it. I want to have stuff that like lifts everybody up. That's what I want to do. That's what made me want to do this, and that's what made me want to cover Kentucky basketball, because typically there's just so much good to talk about, and it feels like it hasn't been like that in quite a while.
Yeah, it's just the expectations. This season was not supposed to be that. The season was supposed to be rocking and rolling and one seeds and SEC tournaments and all the fun that we thought was going into the season with the expensive roster. It has just blown up in its face. And yes, we will absolutely talk about UK's thrashing by Gonzaga at the hands of the Bulldogs. Gonzaga is a good team. I could see a blowout coming. I hate this. I really, Peak, I'm in a similar boat. I hate this, but I made our Nashville trip at the Gaylord Opry was basically paid for because I knew Kentucky was going to get dominated. And I don't ever bet that much. I hardly ever do.
Oh, yeah.
But 3.5 points? Were you kidding me? This team just looked horrible against North Carolina and lost, of course. And now they're actually going against a good team, against a better front court, and they're only 3, and while it was a home game in Nashville, it really was, but it still wasn't Rupp Arena. 3.5 points, are you kidding me? And then I think about a tip-off, it was like 5.5 or 6, and that's more points, obviously. I still felt good about it at that point. And guess what? If you were thinking, you know what, maybe Kentucky will get ahead, I'll get a good number once they get ahead. Nope, you didn't have to worry about that. They never got ahead. Complete and total domination. And Peak, I think we'll talk about this is shocking to me. This is surprising to me. I wasn't expecting this to happen. I thought they were going to get beaten badly on Friday.
Yeah.
It still was worse than you could have ever pictured, even if you thought, like, this is a tough matchup for the Cats. Cats are probably going to get handed a spanking tonight. That was pure humiliation. That was embarrassing. That's not Kentucky basketball. And that's a disgrace to the fans that showed up there.
The game was over with. It was over with at the under 16. At the end of the fourth. We knew. At the first 4 minutes in is what I meant to say. Yeah, at the under 12, they had not hit a field goal yet. It was 19-2. It was over. It wasn't like last year where you got down by 18 and you didn't have much hope, because that it takes a lot to outscore a team by more than that in 20 minutes. But that, even though there's 30 something minutes to go in the game, you just knew that how are you going to get points? This team hasn't been able to score. If you combine the end of the North Carolina game with the start of the Gonzaga game, they went 19 and a half minutes making 2 field goals. That's insane. And it's not the offense that we were promised when Mark Pope got here. It's not that is not what won us over. Because let's be real, TJ. Let's be real. The day that Mark Pope I was on KS board and I don't know, forget Jacob, Tyler, one of them posted that it's probably going to be Mark Pope. I spiraled for a second and went, yo, you can't do that. You can't. I mean, we all love Mark Pope, but this, and then I watched the YouTube video that everybody watched, and the high-flying offense, and 1-2 passes down the floor, pop a 3, and I envisioned it with slightly better players than you can get at BYU. Not like even overwhelmingly good players, just like one good star and several like really good role players. And last year we saw a little bit of that. Dude, this is not at all. This is not even remotely close to what I thought we would get in the best case scenario of Mark Pope. It's bad.
You're just seeing like it's all collapsing in real time. And these games are real moments that are, as they are shocking, alarming to the fans. I think the team isn't as all shocked. It's almost like they seem to expect to get blown out on Friday. It's almost like they knew that they didn't have any offensive game plan. They know, it's almost like what they do in practice, they're prepared for it for the games in ways that the fans are just shocked to see this be the product. They didn't look all that mad. I know we had a couple people that were kind of like griping at each other, and Otego was open in the corner, and Denzel didn't get in the ball, and he had an outburst, or his expression said a lot there. It almost seems like they've reserved themselves to being what they are, and they have no care to try to fix it. Obviously, that doesn't apply to everybody, but the people that are trying hard and the efforts where they want it to be, they're not good. And they stink. And the thing that worries me the most is there's nothing really anybody can do about it. Jaden Quaidens, if he was healthy and he would help. Again, defensively, day one, you're going to be a better team with that guy on the floor. But he's not helping you extend the floor and stretch the floor by making shots. He's not doing that. He's not hitting 18-footers consistently. He's not going to do a little dribbling out on the perimeter and then drive and kick to somebody who will make a three, but nobody's making any threes right now. So he will help, but it still doesn't change the picture of, we have Final Four expectations, and this team is much closer to first four. It truly is a bubble team. When you lose that badly to Gonzaga, they'll have plenty of time to figure things out and get quality wins, but that's a sign. Obviously, it's a sign of something going in the wrong direction, but this is all incredibly alarming to me. I love the boos. They deserved it. I'm not one that, normally, you don't boo your own team. I don't really care one way or another. If they deserve to be booed, boo them. They're paid. They get a ton of money. They've got a pretty solid life, and that effort was terrible. It was awful. People paid a lot of money to go to Nashville. People traveled. Mm-hmm. They booked off weekends. And you go out there with that effort, people didn't boo loud enough. People didn't get on this team hard enough. And Pete, you were there. You heard the boos. And you've been highlighting it. how alarming it was, and it was just crazy to hear that. I was shocked that they weren't louder and that they didn't just go. In the second half, UK fans basically just kind of tapped out. They're like, all right, we're overly upset. This sucks. Let's just try to enjoy our evening as much as we can. There was a couple splatterings of boos in the second half, but everybody had already just given up. If those boos don't wake up the players, then get them the hell out. Get all of them the hell out. Play the players who actually care about the boos. Again, you're going to be a great team. You're not going to be a great team with those guys getting a ton of minutes, but Kentucky fans they just will not put up with what we saw Friday. It won't happen. Pope will be gone by the end of this year if that keeps up.
The effort, absolutely booing effort. I mean, because here's the thing, TJ, I just don't think these guys are that good. So I'm not going to be mad at them that they can't make shots. Okay, like they're just not good at it. We knew that going in. We knew it. We knew it in our hearts. I talked with Brandon Ramsey. You've had him on the show before. He's a good X's and O's guy, former college basketball coach, and he even as he was going through our breakdowns this year, he was buying into the propaganda that was being put out by, Mark Pope himself. Like, he compared them. He said it was a Ferrari. He said they were just as good as or not just as good, but he did compare them to the 1995-96 team. We were told that Trent Noah was the best shooter anyone has ever seen, and not only was he the best shooter they've ever seen, but he can get a shot off whenever he wants. He's a catch and shoot, quick trigger. You can't even block his shot. What? Like, what? And so I talked with Brandon Ramsey last night, and he's telling me, like, I don't know how I fell for this. I'm embarrassed. I know basketball, and I'm embarrassed that I got this way wrong. And if I went through his breakdowns, and he was just so hesitant with all of it, because we knew in our hearts. So in those breakdowns, he would say, yeah, Aberdeen could be this, but there is a world where maybe he's not what we need, and it's because we knew it. We knew when we got Denzel Aberdeen, we were trying to fill in two roles there. We were trying to fill in the role of a shooter that he's not, and also a backup point guard, which he is not. And it's not obviously just Denzel, it's across the board. We knew in our heart that Jalen Lowe was a 27% three-point shooter. But, TJ, what if I told you he also takes bad shots? Like, that was what we were told. It's okay because he took a bunch of bad shots. Well, I'm hoping that the whole offseason that, okay, well, Mark Pope just knows more basketball than all of us. That's evident, and he does. And I'm hoping he knows way more basketball than we do, because I'm looking at the roster thinking, all right, where's Kobe Brea? Where's the Jackson Robinson? And do we have a Lamont Butler in Jalen Lowe? And I'm not going to hate on Jalen. We barely even seen him play this year because of the injury. But this was a team that was put together that just didn't match what Mark Pope wants to do. They're not good. But the effort, anybody can give effort. Anybody can go out there for the 20 minutes that you're asked to play. No one's playing over 30 minutes. That's the philosophy issue that I've beaten into the ground about this. But they're not playing over 30 minutes. You can give effort for 25 minutes. So when fans are booing, I do think that that's what they're booing. They're booing, like, throwing the ball away with a one-handed pass, Ortega. Or Cam Williams not even seeing a pass as it bounces off or goes through his hands and hits the referee on its way out of bounds. That happened in the first 4 minutes. The boos started with 17 minutes, 52 seconds. I don't necessarily think it was just that game. I don't think it was just that half. The score was 4-0, and fans were booing vehemently. And that, to me, it's not just a frustration with how that game was going on Friday. It was a frustration with 6 years of Kentucky basketball being at its best decent. Like, this is the worst stretch of Kentucky basketball in the history of the program these last 6 years. And that's what people are frustrated with. They're just done. There is no more patience. It has reached a boiling point. It's boiling over right now.
Well stated. I can get behind that. So what do we do? Where does it go? Realistically, what does the next few weeks look like? And in your opinion, Stephen Peak, what do the next few months look like? And after you answer, I'll take a stab at it.
You got to beat Indiana. Here's what I don't want, though, TJ. Like, this is what it is. All right, now we can go into all these games and be pissed off, and because they're going to lose more games. I think that they'll beat Indiana, but I'm not 100% confident that they will. But I think that they will. You probably lose to St. John's, and that puts you at 8-5 going into SEC play. What I don't want to happen is for us. I hope we didn't just let, like, put in the cliche, can of worms, let the cat out of the bag, whatever it is about booing. I hope that doesn't become a part of our culture here this year, like that we're just going to boo the team every time they lose. I was okay with what happened in Nashville, but that was like, it was jarring how loud it was, and like you said, it probably could have been louder. It was jarring at how angry Kentucky fans were and how quickly it turned. It was, like I said, with 17 minutes, 52 seconds to go, the boos were that loud. So I hope we don't make that a regular thing, because I don't think that this team's very good. And that's if they don't show after, yes, absolutely. If they don't show after,
if they keep playing like that, they deserve to get nothing but booed. It should just be nonstop. But if they play like that, but yes, I agree.
But it's not their fault that their coach and that this staff and that the athletic department raised a bunch and boosters gave them millions of dollars, gave bad basketball players millions of dollars. That's not their fault. I wonder how, I mean, that was so bad that as much as I like Mark Pope, I was like, dude, how do you even come back from this? How do you recruit with this? How do you go into parents' living rooms and say, hey, come to Kentucky and play for me, and not have people thinking, well, I don't want my kid to be a part of that. Look at that. That's terrible. I'm not blaming the fans. I'm blaming the staff for putting together a team that looks like that, and for not having them ready to play, and for not demanding effort, and for not benching guys who aren't showing effort. Bench them. The game was over. Bench them. Like, that's what should have happened. Zach Towle should have been in the game.
I think that's where it gets a little bit more concerning with all this, is like, these guys live and breathe basketball. Their analytics, the data will do them right, and they're not going to be stubborn with certain things. I don't know. What evidence do we have that this staff is any good at all? What evidence do we have that this staff has done anything above average for what a University of Kentucky basketball staff should do? Because you're right, they come out unprepared frequently, which is disappointing, especially this year, obviously. They quit early on. It's not like there's these unbelievable halftime adjustments where, all right, just get to the locker room. They have terrible, terrible long stretches, and it's not just an outlier. I mean, it's a norm. You know this team is going to have a 4 or 5 minute stretch where they just don't score the basketball. That's pathetic. That shouldn't be the case for a Mark Pope offense. It shouldn't be the case for a Kentucky basketball team. This is just not Kentucky basketball. So, in the next few weeks, they need to start winning some games. I don't know how they do that because this collection of talent is flawed. They're good basketball players. I do know that, because had Denzel Aberdeen not gone to Kentucky, he would have gotten a bag somewhere else, or he could have stayed at Florida. Same with Mo Diabate. Alabama really wanted that dude. They just weren't going to pay the price that Kentucky paid for him. So when you break down these players, all of them would have been coveted by really, really good teams. Good teams that are competing for what we thought Kentucky was going to be competing for. So is it truly just the pieces don't fit that well, but this is what it looks like on paper? I refuse to believe that. You can have a team that doesn't you can have a team that just doesn't mesh well together, but they play hard. And yeah, they don't win a lot of games, or they don't win the games that you want them to all the time, but they're playing hard. And they're good basketball players. So this goes to what a lot of people have speculated. I think there is some truth out there if you follow the breadcrumbs down the right path. This team just doesn't like each other. It seems like there are some major issues. I think that whether or not it's like actual personal, and there was some drama off the court or in the locker room or even at a fraternity party or something like that. Or it's just, hey, I don't like you as a basketball player. I think you are a bad basketball player, and I don't like having to share the court with you. Whether it's off the court or on the court, it's clear as day to me that a lot of these dudes just don't gel. and they don't mesh. And it ain't simply you're a penetrator and I'm a penetrator and I can't spread the floor and you can't spread the floor, so we're both kind of doing the same thing. No, it's like I don't trust you to have the ball, so I'm not going to pass it to you. Yeah, you're wide open, but I'm not going to give it to you. So that
they don't trust each other.
I just can't stress enough how embarrassing that is as a basketball coach to have your players not like one another and not want to play for one another. Mark Pope has one of the biggest failures of everything that we're talking about is this. How do you let this team seemingly start to hate each other? It's very apparent when you're watching them play basketball and they say the right stuff off the court. But how did it get so bad? What went wrong, and why couldn't you smooth it out? Why couldn't you fix it out? Let's just take a dumb rumor that usually goes with like a team playing poorly. So-and-so's girlfriend was hanging out with another player, blah, blah, blah. Let's just pretend there's an iota of truth to that. And I don't think there is, but I have no idea. Pope, the season's on the line. Like, you've got to figure out this in-house stuff and make sure everybody's cool and happy with one another, or else you may lose the season. And guess what has happened? And I'm not saying that it's the drama of off the court. I have no idea, like I said. But it's very clear on the court, these dudes do not get along. And they don't play well together. And that should have never happened. It really should have never happened. It has, so Pope, you need to remedy it. And let's just, again, let me just pull an example out of here. I don't know this to be true factually or anything like that, but it certainly looks like Otega Oweh is checked out. I don't know if he's one of the ones that has issues with players or players have issues with him, but you ain't seen a lot of people go over and dap up and hug on Otega Oweh, and you don't see Otega Oweh going up and dapping and loving on a lot of people either. I'm not saying that he is definitively the problem player, I don't know. But he's a problem to making UK a more successful basketball team because he's not playing all that well. And then you start to see the effort, and you start to see him whine, and you start to see him complain. Yeah. And I'm at the point where it's not even Oweh so much peak, although it is. So in this instance, I'm going to use him. But bench him. Don't let him get off the floor. Let him go an entire game not being on the floor. Oh, but then you may lose him. Then kick him off the team. Then get him out of here. Yep. Oh, but then you may lose him for good. Good. If that's the type of dudes that we're dealing with, they need to get their ass out faster. Yeah, what is the difference?
What's the difference?
Well, because you just got to love him up, and you got to carry him along. He's given up, so don't play him. You're hurting your team by playing him. So if he wants to figure it out and start playing, all right, then you play him. Maybe show it in practice first.
Oweh was never the star last year. That's the deal. He was never the star. He was surrounded by good players, and he was able to go get a sneaky 16 points. Right? And now we try to make him the star, which is not the role that he can play. And we talked to them today. Who's the leader? And the answer is, everybody's leader. Well, that's not how leaders work. I mean, that's not how it works. Oh, who's the president? We're all president. I mean, that's not how it works, TJ. I mean, somebody has to step up and be a leader, and nobody wants to do it. And the guy that should do it, Otega, isn't really that guy. With the personalities that you have, there's not even like an Andrew Carr. Like, Andrew Carr was fine. But there wasn't even let's go, come on, like somebody getting fired up and getting people's faces and like rally around somebody. There's no one to do that.
I mean, last week.
So get him out. Get him out. I'm so done watching Otega Oweh play basketball. I know he's okay against UNC, but you needed him to be good against UNC, and he couldn't even do that. And I'm just sick of seeing him just kind of half-ass it. I'm just sick of it. There's a lot of players that deserve some angst, but Otega, the expectations were so high for you. All right, you're not SEC Player of the Year caliber. That's fine. That's all right. Can you go out there and be what UK needs you to do? Be the leader as if you were playing like an SEC player? Can you just fake it till you make it? But he can't even do that. And he's seemingly been pouty even all in the summer. Like, that should have been a huge ceremonial. I'm coming back. You all wanted me, and I'm doing it. It's going to be great. He was nowhere to be found. And then he got hurt. And, I get that could play a role in it. But Otega Oweh, I don't know if I've ever been more disappointed with a Kentucky basketball player this early into a season. I just had high expectations for him. And not that all the faults of Kentucky fall on him, but he needs to be a leader. He's not. He's supposed to be the guy that knows Pope's culture and what it means to play for UK basketball. He doesn't seemingly show that at all. And, all right, anyway, sorry to interrupt you, Matt.
No, you're good. It's just kind of crazy the difference in coaching that some of these college basketball teams have and how they've adapted NIL and players getting paid so much money. I mean, just a week ago, excuse me, sorry. Oh my gosh. Just a week ago, We had Chris Beard with Ole Miss lose, and then in the press conference they were asking AJ Storr about effort and how to improve effort on the court, and Chris Beard cuts him off in the middle of it and just says, "We just won't play those guys anymore. I don't care if they're getting paid or not. I will not play guys who are just not going to put in effort on the court because what's the point?" To both of y'all's point earlier is that even if you're losing, right, you're going to play Gonzaga in Nashville. That's a fun trip. Like, even let's say it was a close game, UK loses anyway, you still get the whole weekend in Nashville. It's still a fun time. Like, TJ, you brought your family. That's still a great time to be a Kentucky fan. You know, you get to go watch a fun basketball. You get to hang out with your family in a really cool city. But you just ruined it. You just ruined it by putting in very little effort, all the money people spent to get there. It's almost like the statement that Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan made hundreds of times in their career when they would ask them about, like, load management. They were like, load management? People pay hundreds of dollars to come see me play. I don't care if it's game 81. I don't care if it's game 1. I'm going out there to play for the little kid who paid to come see me play. He may never get to come here again. I'm gonna and Kentucky basketball.
That might be his first game.
Kentucky basketball is on that level of college basketball. There's people that, you know, those tickets are not cheap. There's kids that right now are growing up. They were probably just born 4 or 5 years old. This is their first instance of Kentucky basketball. You're trying to bring fans back. You're trying to grow the fan base. That's impossible to do when you just put in little effort. It's one of those things that even I'm a Louisville fan. You know, I laugh every time Kentucky loses, but it was just embarrassing to watch. I started thinking back to the Kenny Payne games. I was like, dude, there are kids out there watching this who won't be Louisville fans because this is what they associate Louisville basketball as. This is their first interpretation of Louisville/Kentucky basketball, and it's going to push them away. And that is more harm than anything that, you know, you or Steven can come see. You guys know about the history of Kentucky basketball. You know where it's supposed to be. But like TJ, you brought your daughter. You know, I mean, obviously you've instilled to her Kentucky basketball is great, but imagine she didn't have a father that was within the media scene. That's her first instinct is like, gosh, these people suck. Hey, Dad, why don't they just play better? Why are you a fan of these people?
Luckily, at 4, she wasn't totally with the score, but the sentiment is spot on, and we talked about that during the Kenny Payne era. And you can lose fans. Pete, when I was in college, UK was going to Final Fours, and then I graduated, and then they still kept going to Final Fours, and if they weren't going to Final Fours, then it was usually an upset in the Elite Eight or something silly, and like Kentucky basketball was just rocking and rolling. And just compare that experience with if you've been in college the last, 5 years, for 4 years. It has night and day. You probably don't have very many positive UK basketball memories. You didn't go and rush State Street and set couches on fires when you went to a Final Four. You never got to sniff a national championship game. It's night and day different. And I had a blast on Friday. I'll never have more fun at a game where UK loses by 40 points. And it was just because again, about 4 minutes in, 5 minutes in, I had a feeling it wasn't going to go over for UK. They came out worse than I thought that they were going to come out worse. So I'd almost just reserved myself to don't let this get you up or down. Just enjoy this time with your family. And it was one of the coolest setups I've ever had for a UK basketball game. We had some like Jack Daniels suite tickets and
ooh, nice.
It was awesome. And like I brought the kids, and that's always just kind of a risky thing to do because what if they just have I brought the 4 and the 1-year-old. It's like, all right, what happens if they're having a bad night? Do I have to leave the game? What if they just are total and complete stinkers? It's a risk bringing your kiddos. But I planned this out a long time ago. Like, I want to go to Nashville. It's close enough. I want to bring the kids. The game's at 6 o'clock. It's not super late. They were going to be able to be all right at 6 o'clock Central Time. And we got amazing tickets. We got an incredible price on the tickets. The seats were incredible. Like, just to be able to have that vantage point and room to run around, and the kids were able to run around. And it was just like everything was set up for a great evening, and then they tipped the ball. And it was just over. I mean, it was truly and utterly over. And it did cross my mind. Like, the Gaylord, I'm going to say this. Can't recommend that place. They don't need me advertising for them. Can't recommend that place enough for Christmas time and families, especially with the proximity to Louisville. It was very, very cool, a fun experience, and literally the only bad thing about the entire trip was Mark Pope's basketball team. They were terrible. That was it. But I did my best to try to not let that ruin it. But we had some out-of-town family in and, like, family friends. And this guy, my wife's cousin works for Vandy. so lives in Nashville, obviously. We were like, hey, come to the game with us. He was like, I thought Kentucky basketball was good. Aren't you all ranked? I was like, yeah, we shouldn't be, and we won't be moving forward, rightfully so.
They moved up in the net rankings. They're even better now than they were before.
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
Let the net rankings cook. The water finds its level. Usually it's like February when those actually start to make a little bit of sense. Now you can make the case, then why promote them if they're, if they don't really make a ton of sense right now? And that's a total fair point. But we had an absolute blast. It was a great trip. Ran into a couple roll callers down there, which was really nice to see.
Nice.
But just an absolute stinker of a game. And here's where it goes from here. I gave the first part of my answer. You got to get guys that want to play and are going to go out there and play hard, and we'll see how the scores work themselves out. The big picture, though, you can have a little bit of a Mark Stoops effect with Mark Pope, and hear me out for just a brief moment before we take a commercial break. But I don't think they're going to lose by 40 every game. But let's just say this season they end up being like a bubble team, not a bubble team. It just, the season doesn't improve drastically, and I don't think it's going to. You could find yourself in a situation where you're not firing Pope after 2 years. He's definitely going to get another year. This is almost an audition for Pope. I think he'll get a third year regardless, right? But the Mark Stoops situation, the similarity there is, if this keeps snowballing, Peak, what nil money is Pope going to have next year? What money is he going to have? And then you're going to have people talk about, well, I'm not really excited for basketball and this or that, where just like with Mark Stoops, that was the craziest thing to me about in Nashville. Everybody wanted to talk Will Stein. And that was even before the game.
Yeah.
That was on Thursday and Friday before the game even happened. Everybody wanted to talk Will Stein. So we found ourselves in this scenario where nobody was going to talk UK football at all because they just wouldn't have cared. But instead, you do the brave and the bold and the expensive thing. You get rid of that loser. You bring in Will Stein, and just like that, everybody's optimistic again about football. Who cares about getting blown out by your rival just a few weeks ago? We've got some optimism, baby. I worry that Pope could find himself in a similar situation if this keeps snowballing, where people are going to say, yeah, okay, whatever. If Pope comes back for another year, whatever. My expectations are going to be low. I'm not really going to care so much. And then on the flip side, in the back of people's minds, if you just get a new coach in there with more nil money, and you may say, you can't just keep doing this. You can't. 2 years, what are you talking about? This is professional sports, dude. This is not your 1960 give the coach 32 years to figure it out sort of stuff. It ain't happening anymore. So Pope will be back for a year 3. I'm not trying to suggest or say anything else. But if it keeps getting so bad, the optimism for 26, 27 is going to be concerning, to say the least, because you got to have money to be able to put a team together. Pope will have significantly less of it, in my opinion, next year if this doesn't turn around. We will let you all comment on that. We'll read some text into the Game Day Men's Health text line, but we need to take our first commercial break. A snowy Monday here in Kentucky. This is Kentucky Roll Call on Big X Sports Radio.
He's a loser, but he still keeps on trying.
you do as well. Want to remind folks that we're going to be at 5 Iron Golf doing the show on Thursday, but a little bit of a twist. Are we going to be at their New Lou or their downtown location? Stay tuned. But they're not too far away from each other. The downtown location, brand spanking new. They wanted us there for that. Maybe a little too brand spanking new, so the setup at New Lou may be better. We're going to check out all of them when it's all said and done. But stay tuned for which 5 Iron location we'll be at on Thursday. Come out, say hello to us. We can all vent and cry about UK basketball together. Okay, fun opening segment there. Obviously, long, much to say. The state of UK basketball is not great, and Pope has a few more months to figure it out, is the way that I see it, Stephen Peak. But anything on my last rant there that you wanted to add on or touch on, and then we can read some text or go wherever we want to go from here.
I think that Mark Pope will be back for year 3. Absolutely. I would say it's about over 90%. There is a scenario, TJ, where if this thing really losses really start to pile up, they don't have any recruits coming in. They haven't landed a recruit yet in the early signing period. The transfer portal will open up. You'll get some guys there. You do have a lot of guys who could return if they want to, and if you want them to, I guess. I believe that $22 million I think that some of that is on like a 2-year contract sort of deal. So some of these guys are supposed to come back. But if, let's say things get off the rails and you get a 7-11 SEC, you finish 7-11. Dude, I don't think that just firing your coach will just make things immediately better. But again, there's a lot of people who had to be talked into this hire, that this is going to work. And I wonder if Mark Pope is just overthinking too much of this. Now with Calipari, things were like, you're underthinking it. But with Pope, I wonder, is he just overthinking everything? Can we just get 7 or 8 guys and just not worry about their all the different like usage rates and the eccentric rates and all that other stuff that you have to put into your reports to figure out how many minutes a guy should play? Can we just go get 7 or 8 guys and just play them? Like just let's have a starting 5 where 3 or 4 guys play over 30 minutes. Can we do that?
We all just want to win, whatever it takes. Just find a way to win.
But I think this is what's hurting the recruiting. I mean, I'm watching 4 or 5 guys that we went after just dominate that Kentucky couldn't get because those guys don't want to just play 20 minutes and watch Trent Noah come in and play for them. I mean, with all due respect to Trent Noah, bro, like when you're open at the top of the key, let's shoot the ball. That's why you're there. That's why you're out there. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. Like, you would not be on this team if you didn't. I went back and listened to Jalen Lowe and Malachi Moreno last night and what they were saying about Trent, that he's the best shooter he's ever seen. He's like, if he's the guy, if he's got to be that guy, then he's got to pull the trigger. And then there's Jasper Johnson. I mean, what's he bringing to the table right now? Like, the depth hasn't been there. That's the Georgetown game when I came in the studio and I was way down, is because I looked and saw, oh no, we don't have depth. And that's what this entire thing is supposed to be. So I don't know how Mark Pope recovers from a season like this when you have to recruit and no one even knows who you are, really. And the whole idea of your offense is supposed to bring players to come play for you. But who's going to want to play in the system? Because they're not going to be able to run the system that he wants to run and try to win games. I just don't think you can.
See, I think
they're going to have to try to grind out games.
I feel like the beginning of this season was an extremely, I know, Pete, you've used the word unlucky for a lot of reasons. You know, injuries, and it didn't start the way you wanted to, losing against Louisville in your 3rd game. And I feel like and then the whole Mark Pope presser about stuff happened before the game. Like, things just kind of started on a down note. But I'll be honest, I said it already a little bit on Friday when it was just me and Peak talking before you got on, TJ, but you could say anything you want about Cal and the X's and O's, and maybe wasn't the coach that Kentucky wanted towards the end. You were expecting more out of him, but that dude knew how to take some of the best talent in the world and get them to buy in together and play together as a team. Whereas even NBA teams don't have that structure sometimes. Like, there's some teams with some divas on it, and I think Kentucky right now has some divas on that team, and I just don't think Mark Pope is the guy really to have that kind of bankroll and that kind of talent and get these guys to buy in and say, okay, yes, Denzel, you just came off a national championship team, but like Steven said, you're only going to play about 20-something minutes. That's just how it's going to be. Whereas, I don't know if you guys listen to the 520 podcast a lot. Jeff Teague has told the story a bunch of times when he got traded to, I think it was Atlanta, and he walked to the locker room the first time, and jokingly, somebody came up to him and was like, you're only playing 18, man. He's like, I just got off averaging 24 a game. You're only playing 18. And they bring him to the office. Was like, you get 17 minutes, that's it. That's all you're getting. And he hated it. And it's one of those things where when you're paying those players that much money, they expect to be the guy, right? Now, they're not expecting to play 40 minutes a game. But, I mean, I think Peak is right on this, that these guys are expecting a lot more playing time, a lot more imagery, I guess, out there to get their name out there for, like, later being on the draft. I mean, when you play for Kentucky, you are being looked at by scouts all across the world. You're good enough to play for this team. You're good enough to play for this program. You're somebody that scouts for the Bulls and the Knicks and all these NBA teams are going to be looking at. So when you're only playing 20-something minutes, I think some divas are going to come out. I just don't think Mark Pope's the kind of guy who can rally divas together kind of like Cal can. I think that if he had a guy or maybe one or two guys to go to and then had a bunch of kind of role players to build around them, kind of like a more average college basketball team, I think he can really succeed. I think the whole Kentucky aspect is him like shooting for the stars way too early, and I think it just kind of got it way too far ahead of him.
I think there's a lot of truth in the things that you're saying there. And I would always say that about Calipari. Even before Nil, it was always just incredible that he would take all these big egos, and very, very rarely did he have any issues with them. Or if there were issues, he was able to keep it so close-knit and tight-lipped that it didn't leak out of the locker room and things could ease over before they ballooned into something much bigger. He did a great job of that. And near the end, it started to get a little bit shakier for him. There were some rumors about this player and that player, and obviously Oscar Tshiebwe, he was one that supposedly severe wheeler. So Cal started to kind of show some cracks, but he was so good when Kentucky was rocking and rolling. And throw in the nil aspect of egos, and then it really can. And you're talking about 18, 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds that don't really have life figured out, don't really know. They think they do, but they don't really know it yet. And, it totally could get to be a much bigger issue than Mark Pope even knows how to deal with. And I think all these things have to be true, because I just refuse to think that this is a collection of bad basketball talent. It's not the best fitting basketball talent, but these are good basketball players. Yeah. I just can't stress it enough. Like, all these dudes would be luxury pieces on elite teams. So what happened? And it just had to, yeah.
Can I push back on that a little bit?
Yeah, feel free.
I don't think that these are not his first choices. All of these guys were because he missed out on the guys he actually wanted. And I actually think Jalen Lowe was somebody he said, okay, we can get Jalen Lowe. All right, let's get him, because if we don't, we're in trouble. So we're gonna take Jalen Lowe because we've already missed on a couple guys that we were going after.
But why couldn't they get Pierre at SMU? Like, why could Kentucky not get a recruit that SMU could get? The answer is they could. If they wanted Pierre, he would have been in blue and white. They chose wrong.
Okay.
So why did they choose incorrectly?
That is a good question, and that's what these guys were hired for, was because they're supposed to be able to evaluate talent better than this. But some of the guys that you did go after, you missed. That's why Denzel Aberdeen's on the team. You didn't get Caleb Wilson. You thought you were going to get Caleb Wilson. What a difference he would make on this team, right? So I don't think that this actually – I think these are good players, but they definitely aren't good enough to play in the system that Mark Pope wants to play, where you fly down the court and shoot threes. We knew that. We knew that going in. We lied to ourselves and told ourselves that guys who couldn't shoot last year were going to suddenly be good this year. There was not anybody on the team. That starting lineup, TJ, when you look at what the starting lineup that they were going to roll out, Jalen Lowe, 27% three-point shooter. Otega Owe plays the 2. I absolutely hated it when I was told Otega Owe was going to be the starting 2 last year, because I was like, I don't want my starting 2 to not be able to shoot and have like the complete hitch in his shot that Otega has. I want my two guard needs to be Jamal Murray. It needs to be one of the Harrisons. It needs to be Patrick Sparks even. Like, I want my 2 guard to be my best shooter. And then at the 3, we had Colin Chandler, who is the best shooter. Okay, or I guess, you can interchange those if you want to. But Colin Chandler, who, averaged 2.7 points last year? Or whatever it was. Then you're playing Mo Diabate at the 4, and he can't shoot. And then you had Brandon Garrison at the 5, who actually is 2 for 2 in his last 2 attempts from 3. That lineup isn't awesome. Like, let's be real. That lineup is not offensively amazing. So when we keep saying, like, we got good basketball, we got a great basketball team as far as individual talent, I don't see that. And that is what is kind of concerning, because that makes me think that there really isn't a way to make this work.
Yeah, I think we're just kind of splitting hairs, semantics over it. But, like, again, Mo Diabate was a good player on a good team last year. Denzel Aberdeen was a good player on a good team last year. Otega Owe, same. Colin Chandler, okay.
Those 2 guys came off the bench. I mean, they were fine. But Mo Diabate, I mean, what did he do offensively? I mean, yeah, he was great defensively coming off the bench. Denzel Aberdeen came off the bench for, like, where those starters were really, really good at Florida.
Yeah, but so you're saying they're not good basketball players?
I'm saying that they're good, but they have nobody on this team that's great.
Yeah,
I don't
the star level talent. We were concerned about that to begin with, or the NBA level talent, I guess I should say on that. A texter on the Game Day Men's Health text line. We're going to throw it over to you, see what you all have to say on today's show. One says the argument of players hate playing limited minutes due to system would work if Louisville wasn't doing it successfully with their guys that they brought in right now. It's apples and oranges what UK and U of L are doing with rotations and rosters and minutes and playing time and all that. Pat Kelsey is doing what I think you should do, and Mark Pope is not doing what I think you should do. I think Louisville has 7 guys averaging 15 minutes or more per game. I think it's like 7.
And then once you get to the higher ranks of, like, the Michael and Ryan Kamalaza, they're getting closer to like 30.
Yeah, but it's 7 guys that are.
4 guys.
Hold on, let me finish this point real quick, okay? Louisville,
Yes.
They have 7 guys averaging 15 minutes or more per game. Kentucky has 11. Kentucky has 11 guys averaging 15 minutes or more per game. So they aren't doing the same thing, just to push back on that text. All right, go ahead.
Louisville has 4 guys that had 4 guys play over 30 minutes against Indiana. Do you know the one guy who didn't play over 30 minutes? Mikael Brown Jr. So he played 27. That's totally different. Kentucky didn't have anybody play over 30 minutes against Gonzaga, and they very rarely have guys play over 30 minutes in any of these big games. In any of the games, actually. That's not what Mark Pope wants to do. He's worried that they're going to get too tired.
Texter says, exactly, Peak. We talked this team up to be much better than they were ever going to be. Maybe recruits and transfer portal players meet Pope and think he's too cheesy. We know this might be the case if we're being honest. That rumor and that stuff, that conversation's out there. Again, I'm not the collection. There's no debating this collection of pieces does not fit, and the staff did a bad job. They're good basketball players. We have many years of evidence to suggest that they're good basketball players. Now, if you want to make the case, well, they're good basketball players, but they weren't ready to be the guys themselves. Well, you're hoping collectively you mix together a bunch of good basketball players, you're going to have a good basketball team. It's a crazy concept. Unfortunately, in this instance, it hasn't worked. And you know what? Maybe they're not good basketball players because it certainly hasn't looked like it up to this point. But I've seen Otega Owe do good things. Denzel Aberdeen, I can go down the list. All of them I have. Some of the freshmen, obviously, a bit of an exception there. But all right, that's hour 1. We'll get to more text in hour number 2. Fun show. We need to talk college football playoffs and Notre Dame as well, so it's going to be a fun show. This is Kentucky Roll Call on Big X Sports Radio.
And you were wrong. You are such a loser. Good for you. It's something that a lot of people can't do. Trying is hard. That's why people don't do it. Losing is hard. They can't make it through it.
Hey there, New Albany. This is Mayor Jeff Gahan. It's another year here in our River City, and what better time to show your support for our high school's athletic programs. Whether it's basketball or football, track and field or soccer, swimming or tennis, our Bulldogs are giving it their all on the field and court. So let's rally behind them, New Albany. Come out to the games, cheer them on, and let's make some noise. Let's show everyone what it means to be a part of the best city in southern Indiana. Go Bulldogs!
Honey Baked Ham in New Albany is the perfect spot for a healthy alternative to fast food. They provide a variety of freshly made sandwiches, as well as salads and delicious soups. And you can dine in or take it to go. They also have many dinner options such as ham, turkey, frozen sides, and desserts, which provide a complete meal. Catering is also available for small groups or large gatherings. Call Honey Baked Ham today, 812-941-9426, or visit them, 3602 Northgate Court, Suite 23 in New Albany.
to your week, and Christmas not too terribly far away. I think the daughter has a full week next week, and then it's officially Christmas break for her, which means not as much work gets done for the parents, but that's okay. Fun time of the year, fun holidays. Get your text into the Game Day Men's Health text line, 502-414-1450. Game Day Men's Health, they are redefining men's wellness. No shortcuts, just results at Game Day Men's Health. We love them. We're a big fan of Game Day Men's Health, whether it's your weight loss, your peptides, sexual performance therapy, testosterone. Go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com, and they'll get you all taken care of and figured out so you can feel you in 2026 at GameDayMen'sHealth.com. It's your health we're talking about. What are you waiting for? Okay, I would like to read some text into the Game Day Men's Health, but that being said, there's still so much to discuss and talk about on today's show, but always fun to hear what the listeners have to say. Texter says, let's see, you keep referencing Cal every time you talk about Pope. This is all on Pope. Cal got enough crap over the last couple of years, and deservedly so, but this situation is about the product Pope is rolling out.
Did I say anything about Calipari in the show yet? I mean, maybe I did. I blacked it out. That's what he was asking. Did I black out when I mentioned?
I think they're
Calipari?
referencing me because I brought him up on Friday as well, because I kind of restated that point because TJ wasn't here to hear it.
Well, just that Cal did a good job kind of managing egos, and maybe Pope isn't doing as good as a job managing egos. Yeah, I don't know. None of these issues have anything to do with John Calipari. Nobody is suggesting such. I haven't heard anybody say as much. This is all on Mark Pope, and yeah, Cal has nothing to do with the UK basketball program here on December 8th, 2025. Don't think that's really – I don't remember you bringing him up besides just us talking about Childers's point on just producer Matt's point on like the sentiment of egos.
I will say though that this stretch of Kentucky basketball, and it's something that I brought up on several things. I don't even know. I don't think I brought it up here yet, but this is the worst 6-year stretch in Kentucky basketball history, and that's what Mark Pope was inheriting. A very impatient fan base. He needed to deliver, like right away. We gave him a pass last year. And last year, he punched above his weight. That's fine. But we still finished 6th in the SEC. So while I was impressed with how they were able to manage that with the injuries and throwing a team together at the last second, that's the second worst finish in the SEC since the Billy G years. And they finished, 8th in 2020, 2021? So that's worse. But outside of that, 6 is the worst. And I know the SEC was tough last year. I'm aware of that. 24-12 is not great for Kentucky basketball, but we gave it a pass. This needed to be a great season, and I think that's part of why you heard the boos. It's a 6-year frustration of Kentucky basketball.
Yep. The texter says about the rosters of U of L and UK, where U of L only plays 7 players over 15 minutes and UK plays 11 players over 15 minutes. The texter says, fair point, the minute distribution isn't equal, but you still have 2 stars averaging 27 minutes per game, where most rosters it would be 30 to 35. To TJ's point, Kelsey is just managing it better, but it's the same sell to at least previously to this season, but nonetheless, Peak nailed it on the head. And there's no denying that Kelsey just did a better job going into this season than Pope did. And I think a big difference is Pope doesn't know. He just doesn't know. So he's playing all these guys hoping that water finds its level and it all works itself out. Pat Kelsey knows. He knows, like, all right, my 3 guards, they're playing, and they're not really leaving the game. And then he has a little bit more flexibility and buttons to push on the front court. But in his backcourt, he knows. And they've even got a bench backcourt player that's really, really, really good. So I get what you're trying to say, Texter, but it really is kind of apples and oranges. Pat Kelsey, he knows what he has with his roster. He doesn't have to go 9 or 10 deep. He won't go 9 or 10 deep. Mark Pope, he doesn't know what he has with his roster, and that's why he's scrambling to go so deep, is he just wants it to work out for him. Hey, this guy, it clicked. Andre Yelovich, he's ready to go. Now we know who's going to be our permanent 4. He just doesn't have any clue, so he's just trying a little bit of everything. Another texter says, what do we think about JMI and UK? What do we think about JMI and UK associate AD? Conflict of interest much? So what's the story there, Stephen Peak?
Well, I mean, I don't know too much about it, but yeah, one of I forget her name, the associate athletic director, her husband, I think, is a higher up at JMI. I think JMI were partners long before they got married. So I don't know. I don't want to get into that because I don't know a ton about it, but I do know there is some kind of I don't know if I want to say conflict of interest. That seems kind of strong. But I don't know how much of that is orchestrated through them, I guess, to know how much of a conflict of interest it would be. But to people's frustration about this, Mitch Barnhart we didn't talk about this on Friday. I think this was the Will Stein press conference, and Mitch Barnhart had a rant that he went on with the media that said, "We have enough. We have enough money. The JMI partnership is working. It's going to work. All the other schools are doing. They're not doing it like this, but he's saying that they're going to do it like we do it." We had 13 players that we had signed. We in football, we were going to the JUCO route. We were like, we're going to build this thing up through the JUCO route. That's how we'll get Kentucky football back. Kentucky basketball has only been able to land a recruit from that. If you didn't grow up 20 minutes from Lexington, then you didn't get a recruit, a freshman, and they haven't signed one yet. So I'm not saying it's because of JMI or it's because of whatever, but you can't just trust me, bro. It's gonna work. Trust me. It's exactly the way we wanted it to go, and it's gonna pay off. And also, why would you say enough is enough? We have enough. Why would you say that? Isn't every other AD trying to raise more money? Why are we saying we're good? We're good. We got enough.
I could be wrong. I think he meant it in enough, stop bringing up the question.
He did, but he also said we have enough. He also mentioned repeatedly that you're right. He did say enough is enough, but he also said we have enough.
He definitely should have spun it around with we have enough. We're doing well, but we could always use more. We're always looking at ideas to bring in more money into the program. Mitch Barnhart cracked me up, and then it absolutely was hysterical. I thought about going in on it on social media, but I was with the family and wouldn't really have the time. But for Susan Lax to tweet out, for UK Athletics to tweet out and say,
"That's terrible."
Mitch Barnhart's actually very available. Are you kidding me? Not available. He's absolutely available all the time, and if you're just not there, that's on you. Susan Lax,
done 6 press conferences in 5 months.
That was such an embarrassing tweet, and it only took somebody with half a brain to be like, wait, you're considering him while he's walking to his car? That's a media opportunity after a Champions Club Blue LLC meeting. That's where people need to go and catch the athletic director. You can't you send out an email blast for every dumb thing that's going on in the city of Lexington, but you couldn't set aside and say, hey, Mitch Barnhart's going to be talking. This is where he's going to be talking. Come at this time if you want to hear him talk. Instead, no, you should just know that he's at these meetings. And if you want to talk to him, just go over and ask him. What are you all talking about? That's crazy. That was such a disingenuous BS tweet. Mitch Barnhart is incredibly unavailable. And I'm sorry, just because he will walk and talk with reporters sometimes after a Club Blue where you don't even publicize it as a media availability or a media opportunity, that's not right. Mitch Barnhart never talks to the media. Don't try to lie to us. That's a joke.
Right, and then when some people do kind of push back, which is what some of the reporters were doing, he does give long-winded answers. So he took 4 questions, and then at the end of the long-winded, I think he ends it with, "All right, thank you." And then walks away, which that's a good strategy to be really long-winded with your answers, because then you don't get as many questions. But the other thing is that if I was TJ, if you were asked the same thing 19 different times, would you ever think to yourself, maybe I'm not explaining this well enough?
Yeah, that would exactly be what it is. There was the 4-year-old just hates wearing sweatpants. No idea why. They're literally no different than just her long pants, but it's just the word sweatpants. So if we said, all right, sweetie, put on your sweatpants. I don't want to wear sweatpants. All right, can you put on your rainbow pants? And then she'd get really excited about it, even if it was the exact same thing. So we came around and we said, we're not going to use the word sweatpants, whatever reason that is concerning her. We're going to call them princess pants. So when she's ready to wear her princess pants, she puts the princess, and now we don't have an issue with that at all. It was literally just changing a word, and now we all understand. We're all on the same page. Mitch Barnhart has never he almost just lives in the grayness. He lives in the ambiguity of, yeah, no, it's good. It's fine. Everything's good. Do you think Alabama and Georgia are having to yell at their fans that everything's fine with the football program? Like, no, we know it because they have amazing teams. UK probably had the least expensive football roster, if not the second least expensive football roster going into this year. It is totally fair to question if Kentucky has what it takes to be able to compete in the SEC in football. It's okay to ask about the JMI nil deal. And Pete, you're spot on where, hey, dude, maybe just explain it where we can understand it instead of getting so defensive about it. Do you have money or do you not have money?
I've heard them say we don't want to give out our game plan. We're not going to give out what we're doing. Do you think anyone else is going, man, Kentucky only signed 13 players and then they were going JUCO and the basketball team can't sign anybody outside the state of Kentucky? Man, we really ought to look into what they're doing over there and try to steal what they're doing. Give me a break. That's ridiculous. Like, I think that if it was successful, we wouldn't even have these questions. Or here's another one. We were behind on NIL for over a year. I remember I did a video about NIL collectives and how Tennessee was a year and a half ahead of us. And I don't know if it correlated with this 6-year stretch of where Kentucky basketball isn't very good, where we've had to basically, Calipari left on his own, where we had to get rid of a football coach. But it's like, we were behind, and maybe some of the results are showing that we were behind. And the other thing that he said was like, we're doing things the right way. We're not breaking any rules. Mitch, there's no rules. There's no rules that we have to. There's nobody else is following rules. What rules are we trying to? Why are we the ones who are like, yeah, we just got to do it the right way, and if we do it the right way, it will lead to good results? No, what's the right way? The NCAA doesn't even exist anymore. They just throw together tournaments.
That cracks me up, and you're spot on about that. A don't protest too much situation, if there ever was one. We're going to do it the right way. We're not going to cheat. Oh my goodness, Mitch, nobody even mentioned the word cheating. Where's this coming from? And we're going to do it with integrity. Dude, we just want to win. We just want to win. Do you not understand that by now? Do you not understand that that's what makes this entire operation go, is winning? You win, more money. You win, more people are going to be around. You lose, it's not as good. Right now, UK athletics, in its big money sports, they ain't producing in the way that they should be. You're having to pay out a coach $37 million that you set that up. The only person he should be getting angry at is himself. That's the truth about Mitch Barnhart. All right, let's read a couple texts here. This is a really important AP Top 25 poll, and unfortunately, Kentucky's not going to win the national championship in 2026. I know you all probably thought it was right there for the taking. Unfortunately, it's not going to happen because history tells us, going back all the way to 2003 and 2004, that you have to be ranked in today's top 12. In the Week 6 AP poll, if you're not in the top 12, you cannot win the national championship. Every year, the last 23 years, 22 years, the national champion has been ranked inside the top 12 of the Week 6 poll. So this week's top 12, Arizona, Michigan, Duke, Iowa State, UConn, Purdue, Houston, Gonzaga, Michigan State, BYU, Louisville, and Alabama is your top 12. Somewhat shocking.
Kentucky's out of the top 25.
Yeah, they're out. Kentucky's out of the top 25.
For the first time in the Mark Pope era, I believe.
Not good. Not good, but so one of those 12 teams almost certainly going to win the national championship, and I feel pretty good about that for what it's worth. Those are really, really good teams that I just listed and rattled off, and all of them I think would have a chance to be able to cut down the nets. One texter brought that up and said, according to Trilly, every national championship has been ranked. Another texter says, right, Susan Lack's tweet was a joke. John Hale supported her tweet. Are they secretly the same person? I was a little disappointed that John Hale did that too, because John has publicly on radio interviews talked about how I had to run Mitch Barnhart down. I was hoping that he would talk with me, and he did. That's not a media opportunity. That's just good luck. That's what that is. It's good luck and working hard. Yeah, you're putting yourself in a position where you're there. But for John to come back and support that was disappointing from a journalist who should want more transparency and more availability. Not, he is available all the time. That was a weak move, John. Another texter says, I agree with Peak and Matt. MPG distribution is going to be the downfall of Pope. I never disagreed with the minute per game distribution.
You agree with us.
My point was it wasn't U of L's. U of L was different. It's already been talked about on We're Up to No Good that agents of elite recruits don't trust Pope because their guys won't get the minutes. But even besides elite talent, what absolute competitor or dog would be okay with just giving up playing time for bench players? That's why we have a bunch of puppies that are peeing on the porch. No, I agree with all that.
I think it's a good point that, do you think John Wall wanted to come to Kentucky and be like, I'm cool sitting on the bench for a little over, or just under half the game? I mean,
yeah.
Those guys want to go out there and ball.
Listen, John Wall, we've got this guy named Mark Krebs, just so you know. Now, he came in here, too, on a nice little nil deal that you need to know about. No, dude, you knew exactly who that backcourt was. It was John Wall and Eric Bledsoe. And then on the wing, it was probably a little too much Darnell Dotson, right? I think freshman, or I guess sophomore at that point. Darius Miller should have been playing a little bit more if we could go back in time. But one thing that's been, I don't know, comforting in a weird way, maybe that's the word I should use, is it has felt good for the UK fan base. I mean, it feels good. Things have been terrible with the UK fan base, obviously. But it has been nice just to reiterate that it's not personal, right? It's not personal with Mark Pope. It wasn't personal with John Calipari, although some made it personal, and that's really ugly that they did it. It's not personal with Mark Stoops. This is just about two letters, a W and an L. We will love you if you get enough W's. We, again, try not to make it personal, but we will not like you as much if you get too many losses. Mark Pope seems like an outstanding human being. Like, just if you could, what I want to be when I grow up is have the demeanor and the attitude of Mark Pope. Seems like a great family man. So many redeeming qualities. I couldn't care less about any of them unless you win basketball games. And if Billy Gillespie had won basketball games, I'd gladly still have that drunk as our coach. I gladly would. I wouldn't care. I just so desperately want to win. No, not to the point of cheating and selling your soul or getting strippers to have sex with recruits in dorm rooms or anything like that. But in the context of your UK basketball, win. And your UK football, meet the low bar, dude. We're not asking for college football playoffs, although it would be cool, right? I mean, if Indiana can do it, James Madison's getting in the college football playoff. I know that's a whole different tier, but just win. But it has been somewhat refreshing that it's like, Mark Pope, great guy, awesome dude. Yeah, you're just not winning basketball games, so you're going to feel the wrath of the BBN because that's how this goes. It's very transactional. That's been.
I always thought you're absolutely right. Transactional is the perfect word. Because with Calipari, I always said I believe Calipari is a great human being. Like he's a good person, good family man. You never heard of a Calipari scandal off the court, did you? I mean, he's a good guy. Like that's just what it is. And the same thing. I know. I think that Kirby's going to be pissed at me just for the way I keep talking about Cal. But the same thing with Mark Pope. Like, I think he's a great human being. I want to win with Mark Pope. I really do. But, dude, like, I mean, let's figure this out. I just hope that he overcorrected, saw some weaknesses in a few games. But, I go back through that roster, through that schedule, and I'm like, man, last year, if everybody would have stayed healthy, this was a team. I went through Bartovic and just went through the games that Kentucky should have won or would have won if guys weren't injured. And they're like a 2 seed, the top 2 seed with Elite Eight expectations. And probably no one was going to beat those 4 Final Four teams, but you're right there you're 1 win away from it. I just think that he overcorrected. He saw how they lost a couple of games where they were out physical. The athleticism they couldn't keep up with how athletic the other team was. Those were like a couple of games that they lost that way, and we just missed out on the guys that we thought would run it back the way we did last year. And that I can't I've been going back and forth with people on that, trying to figure out which one was it. Was this Mark Pope's team? Did he want all of these guys, or did he just actually miss on the way that he wanted to build the roster? And either way, dude, you got to figure it out. Because I thought after last season it would be easier to recruit this year because people could see how the offense flowed and how much fun it was and how much, the fan support that he had. How does it get? I walked out of Nashville. I walked out of Bridgestone Arena thinking, man, I don't even know how Mark Pope recovers from this. And maybe he will. And I so hope he will. But it was just, and maybe I was just a prisoner of the moment. But I just was, and still thinking today, every time like I see a clip of the boos and how that team looked, and I'm just like, well, how do you sell this to the next group?
You want me to tell you how you sell it?
How do you sell it?
To do? It's $22 million. It's $22 million. Who cares? I don't care.
Didn't work. It didn't bring Caleb Wilson. Look, it didn't bring in any of the other guys that he wanted to go get.
Whatever the recruits say, I know that some people can. Mark Pope kind of corny. He made some recruits didn't like him. Bro, who cares? With $22 million, there should be a better product out there than you're giving out. And even if there's not, you can go to recruits and say, hey, guys, this stuff happened in the locker room. This stuff happened in the team. That was on us. It was bad. We're getting $20 million next year. Money talks.
Are we sure he will?
Probably not, but I'm just saying that when you're putting that much money out there, there is a level of expectation. I don't care if it's recruiting. I don't care if it's the actual output on the court. It seems like it sounds weird. I think Mark Pope got too much money. I think he had too much money to deal with, and now you're forced to overpay certain guys. Now you're forced to always shoot for the best guys out there and peak, like you said. When you start missing on some of these guys, okay, well, I got $22 million to deal with. I guess I'll give $4 to Denzel Aberdeen, a dude who came off the bench last year. I'll give $3 to Mo Diabate, another guy who came off the bench last year. It's almost like this stuff wasn't evaluated before the whole recruiting trail went on. It's almost like if you capped him a little bit and it's like, this is what you have to deal with.
I think
more money, more problems.
I think what happened was they had a ton of money. I agree with Matt. I think that they didn't spend it the right way. But I think Mark Pope, again, being reactionary, last year's injuries. It cost us a chance at the Final Four. Cost us a chance at the national championship game. And by gosh darn it, I'm not going to have injuries derail my season again. Sure enough, ironically enough, they've totally already derailed the season, absolutely have derailed this season. But I think his thought process was, I'm going to spread this money out. I'm going to make sure that if somebody goes down, we're going to be okay. Why he didn't get a true backup point guard, I think, is a totally fair question. I think he thought Brandon Garrison was going to take a bigger jump. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But I would much rather, and maybe this is just hindsight saying this, but I think I would have said this in the summer too, I'd rather use that $22 million to go get the best 3 or 4 players that you literally can. I mean, imagine Donovan Dent and Yaxel Lindenberg and Caleb Wilson, and that's like your 3. You'd be able to go find some 4-stars or for transfers and say, listen, I don't have nearly as much money for you. I hardly have any. But do you want to come play with 3 NBA players that are going to be in the top 15 all year, and you're going to work your ass off, and you'll get the money down the road? You could sell that. Yes, absolutely you could sell that, especially with the name Kentucky on the front of the chest. So you don't have to spread out the money to try to, again, if Kentucky was still ranked in the top 5, we wouldn't be questioning roster construction and how you spend out the payments and stuff like that. But now you look at it, and we look at the top-end talent on this team, and you need some dudes, and Kentucky just doesn't have them. So I think it was probably misused as well. There are a lot of texts into the show. I love that Pete doesn't do the how was your weekend nonsense. Let's just get right to it.
We all know how Pete's weekend went.
I have no idea how Pete's weekend went. Was it at least good, Pete?
It was fine. We're consumed by this stuff. Like, so I had to spend my weekend editing that travel video that just I didn't even want to put out. I honestly debated whether we should even post this video because it was so bad, and even the stuff I was saying, I was just like kind of cringing at because I was just like this, and not that I was wrong, but just that I hate saying this stuff and putting it out there. Sure. Honestly, because I love Kentucky basketball, man. I want it to be good. I hate bringing up how bad it's been. So you know what I'm saying? I want to be positive. I want to do a positive Kentucky roll call at some point, and I'm hoping that we get a chance to do that maybe on that Monday after the Indiana game.
They're going to beat IU, all right? They're going to beat IU.
There we go.
It's a lock. It'll happen. But just ridiculous how this season has gone. Another texter on the Game Day Men's Health text line. We'll stay with that texter. They say, we've had bad teams before. That I can understand and wrap my mind around. What I can't wrap my mind around is just the complete lack of effort we play with. I would never boo players, paid or not, for poor play. Complete lack of effort warrants booing, however. And this entire roster is nothing but compromises. Pope wanted Taylor Bowen, elite rim protector and shooter at the 4. When he missed, he went after Mo Diabate. Polar opposites as players. Could have moved on from Garrison for Ade Mero or Morez Johnson. I would have loved Morez Johnson. Chose Jasper over Braylon Mullins for no other reason than his home state. And that doesn't get to all the stars that we've missed on.
Mullins too.
Yeah.
They could have had Mullins. But I think there was a lot of pressure to bring Jasper to Kentucky. I think that they were thinking if we don't bring him, there's going to be questions about our recruiting. And look, you got him, and there's still questions about it. So that's not great.
I just want to know what Mark Pope is saying to some of these guys they're trying to get and why they're getting ran off. Like, I know that in the offseason we had the whole Taylor Kinney, Mark Pope versus Pat Kelsey thing that was kind of a fun scuffle to talk about, and it got all in the media. But, like, is Mark Pope going to these people's houses, like, 3 hours late, wearing a full Wildcat costume, and then, like, kissing their moms on the forehead? What does he do? How is $22 million not enough to bring some of these guys in? What is he saying to them?
And, let's also not get it twisted that the Lexington Herald Leader, that $22 million report, they're not rolling with that unless it's signed off on by the UK staff. And I don't mean that literally. I'm not saying that, like, Ben Roberts is a little lackey to Mark Pope and his staff, but that had to be confirmed through somebody close to UK. I don't think that they would have just gone to all the agents and all the players and their parents and been like, all right, spitballing, how much is it? Okay, and let's add that number to what he told me and what he told me, and oh, wow, we're at $22 million. At some point, they had to run those numbers across their anonymous sources inside UK Athletics, in which case they felt confident enough to be like, all right, we can publish this stuff. So
I've heard from enough people that number's pretty much accurate. That if it's off, you're splitting hairs by $500,000. Or
I've heard that too, and I've also heard what you said in hour one, that some of that number is more than just a 1-year deal, or at least with the option for a multi-year deal, and that's added to that total. So if you're talking specifically like this year's team and this year's roster, I did hear you'd have to take off just a few $1 million, but there are some built-in things for the future, for what it's worth. So I believe that the money's there. They're just misusing it. This texter says, yeah, the staff is clueless and in over their heads, but at least they also can't land any of the players they want with all the resources in the world. And then they say Pope wouldn't have been close to the job if he was an alum. That should tell you everything. And when I freaked out when they hired him, and I did, I really freaked out, which I'll say this, in UK coaching hires in my lifetime, when I've been old enough to
I know
to pay attention to them, I hated the Billy Gillespie hire. I was in college, or I was in high school, but I hated it. I loved the Calipari hire, and I initially hated the Mark Pope hire. Now, I'll say this, because I did the exact same thing with Mark Pope that I did with Billy Gillespie. The way that he hit the ground running, I started to say as a little sophomore in high school, you know what? I may be wrong about Billy Gillespie. He worked so hard, I can get behind him. And
he's not married. He's married to the game.
And it didn't take me long to do similar with Pope, to be like, you know what? All right, I can get in on that. Yeah, what was the thing with Billy Gillespie? He only ate Little Debbie cakes and Dr. Pepper. I think
he was just always watching film because he wasn't married. I think not being married actually makes it to where you're probably. I think we learned that actually was more of a distraction.
They would talk about how he lived in his office, he'd sleep in his office, and it was like, well, he couldn't get a sober ride home. That's really the long and short of it. Then, although that never really stopped him, did it? With Billy Gillespie getting a sober ride home, I don't think.
No, it didn't.
Never stopped him at all, even if it was a little nighttime night golf. But I do golf. That was my big concern with Pope. Was just like, dude, if he could do it, wouldn't he have done it already at BYU? He hasn't done anything. He hasn't proven it. He hasn't won a tournament game. And I don't think Kentucky needs to go take the flyer on a guy. They need somebody that's proven and has won. Now, that being said, the way Mark Pope hit the ground running, the first team that he put together, all the things that he said, I was like, all right, I can get behind this dude. I'm in. And I am in. And I'm locked in. And you get a few more months at least, Mark Pope, and I totally understand you're probably going to get an entire another year. But if you get several more Gonzaga games this year, what are we doing, right? It got so bad at the end of Billy Gillespie, there was no really rationalizing it. if it gets that bad, if it keeps going, I mean, it's already that bad. If it doesn't get better, I should say, we'll have to have that conversation. You just will have to have it.
Billy G was kind of ran off not just because of results, though, right?
Correct. It was not only the losing, but he was getting into it publicly with Jody Meeks, and then behind the scenes, I mean, everybody hated Billy Gillispie for the most part. And then you started to hear about the player abuse, and that's where it was just like, all right, well, you suck as a coach, and you're doing this stuff, and you're kind of just like a jerk. That's one thing, is I think Mark Pope's attitude will probably get him another year regardless. But if this, I don't know. UK fans can only take so much punishment. Texter says, also love roll call's concern about my testosterone levels. Okay, I read the second text first. Hey, fellas, I was literally typing my text asking about your thoughts on the big picture, and TJ got into it. So let's say the worst possible happens. This season's a disaster. We missed the tournament. We lose on these top recruits that we've been on. You think Pope gets another year? If it keeps up this way, no, I don't, because I think it'll just be like a Mark Stoops situation where you can't sell the future with Pope. There just won't be enough money to be able to make it happen. But I don't think it's going to keep going this poorly. I think Kentucky will make the tournament, probably be like a 7 seed, somewhere in that ballpark. And it's not going to be a season that we wanted, so I'm already pretty much just disappointed and ticked off about the whole thing. But, yeah, if they keep losing about 35 points, you're not going to have Mark Pope back for another year. What confidence would that instill for a following season?
Yeah. No, I mean, that's what I've been saying, that if there is a scenario where it gets so bad to where you can't get $22 million again to try to bring on to put together a new team, and some guys might transfer out because it just gets so bad. But I'm choosing to, based on nothing, just hope that it works out and try to get behind these guys and hope that maybe you can beat Indiana. Maybe go down to Atlanta, you play really good, you win that game, just carry a little momentum into January. Maybe by that point you've got JQ out there. Doesn't fix your shooting problems. But what else are we going to do, TJ? I just got to sit here and sulk until next year? I'm not going to do that. But if it gets –
it's already bad. When the bar's this low, it's like, all right, UK – beat IU, and let's just go from there. Just beat IU, and let's just take it one big game at a time. But nobody cares about the stupid little NC Central State game or whatever's tomorrow night. I certainly don't. All right, hold on. We need to take our last commercial break. Yeah, let's do that. I'm going to give you all something to think about during the commercial break, okay?
Okay.
I got a sub from what used to be an incredibly popular restaurant. You can find them everywhere. They're very popular for having a sandwich size at a certain price. No longer that price. First time I'd been to this place in probably about a year. I used to go more frequently. And I got myself a foot-long sandwich. No chips, no drinks, no meals, no cookies, because their cookies usually are pretty good. I want you two to brainstorm on how much 1 foot-long sandwich cost me at this restaurant. And when we return, I'm going to get your answers. This is Kentucky Roll Call. One final segment coming up next on the Big X.
On the Neil Tire and Auto Service Radio Network from Learfield, this is the Big Ten Championship game.
Fernando takes the snap, back to throw, gets a long pass downfield. He's got Charlie Becker. He made the catch. Charlie Becker with a grab inside the 30-yard line. Mendoza takes the snap, wants to throw it, fires it down.
How weird is it if you're a senior on Notre Dame and you didn't even realize, I just played my last game?
Yeah, I think that's pathetic that they didn't play in the bowl game. And I get it. There's more that meets the eye here. ESPN, they kept us out of the college football playoff game, but now they want us to play in their little stupid Pop-Tart Bowl. We're not doing it. Notre Dame, legit gripe for being left out of the college football playoff, in my opinion. I think Notre Dame's one of the top 12 teams in college football. And I think they're one of the teams, had they been in, could have made the semifinals. I don't think that they could have made some noise. I think they have a legit gripe for not being in. However, opting out of the bowl game is so embarrassing. You're a football team. Play football. What are you doing? No, but this one isn't the football we wanted to play. Dude, shut up and play the football. Just go and play the game. You think you're too good for the Pop-Tarts Bowl. I hope somehow this backfires on Notre Dame. That being said, I don't feel sorry for them not getting in the college football playoff, although they have a legitimate gripe. Did you see their athletic director take a shot at the ACC, though, and say that permanent damage was done between Notre Dame and the conference?
He's a clown. You're not even a part of the conference. The ACC's been trying to get you a part of the conference forever, and you're going to go out and complain because the ACC lobbied for an ACC team to be in and not Notre Dame? Bro, you're a clown. Play, like you said, DJ, play your football games, play in the bowl if you want to. This is just another reason why being an independent is better than being in a conference all at this point because, one, we saw, Iowa State and Kansas State both opted out of their bowl games too. Both of those teams are getting fined $500,000 by their Big 12 conference to not play. Guess what? Notre Dame gets nothing. They can just do whatever they want, say whatever they want, and then if they win, if any team gets into the conference, they get a $4 million payout from college football playoff, and you have to distribute that throughout your conference. So if Alabama gets in, they get $4 million. Kentucky gets some of that. Mississippi State gets some of that. But guess what? Not in the conference. If they make it in, they get to pocket all of it. So it's like this whole thing was supposed to benefit college football, but it just seems like we're just catering to these teams that are independents now just so they can get in. And it's so the dude's a clown, and he just made a complete fool of himself. I just don't understand it at all.
That was my
thing. If they were in the conference, they'd be in the playoffs.
Yeah. It was like, what are you mad at the ACC for? I had to go look it up. I was like, man, that's scathing. Like, you're going to get Notre Dame to totally leave the ACC because he's so mad about this. What is he mad about? So I went and I looked it up, and that's exactly what it was, producer Matt, was he did not like the ACC consistently making a case for Miami and not making a case for Notre Dame. Dude, Miami is a full-time member in every sport. You are a full-time member in every sport except the one that actually pays, except the one that actually brings money into the conference. What do you think the ACC is going to do, you dweebs? Of course they're going to defend their actual real school. And let's just call a spade here. I'm sure behind the scenes Notre Dame was probably also saying, like, hey, or ACC was also saying, hey, Notre Dame should probably get in too. We want Miami and Notre Dame, right? Like, I have a hard time believing that they wouldn't have been like, hey, throw Notre Dame in too. Miami first, but yeah, Notre Dame as well. Like, they cater to Notre Dame. The ACC does so much for Notre Dame. And just because they didn't bend over backwards and do tricks on it, that you're now ready to break apart? It's ridiculous.
It's stupid. Like you said, like, they're going to lobby for the team that's going to bring their conference more money. Like I said, but maybe there was a deal on the back end that, hey, if Notre Dame gets in, the ACC will get $1 million of that dollars, because they always play an ACC schedule. We don't know any of that stuff. But Notre Dame's going to pocket at least almost all of it if they want to. They control all of the marbles. They hold all the chips in this. And so to come out and be upset because the ACC was like, hey, there's an ACC team over here. We want them in. It'd be cool to have Notre Dame in because they play ACC schedule. I just don't understand why you're mad. It doesn't make it. Just join a conference. And then next year, they have a rule in place where 2026 moving forward, if you're an independent, so if you're Notre Dame or if you're UConn, screw the whole higher ranked, screw if you win a conference championship, screw what your rank is. If you're in the top 12 and you're an independent, they just put you in over anybody else. And I think that is complete just blasphemous. I mean, we're just changing rules left and right to keep these people in the playoff. I don't understand if there's deals with NBC in this. I don't understand what the money is like, but we're doing anything we can to get these guys in.
Yeah, I hate that for next year. If Notre Dame's automatically in this number they're in, Well, how about if they're just in, they're in. And if they're not in, they're not in, okay? And they should beat more quality opponents and then leave no doubt. I actually do. The thing that kind of sucks about all this is that it's Notre Dame and it's Notre Dame's name and it's Notre Dame fans and goobers that are all whining and crying because they actually have legitimate gripes. Like, how is Notre Dame ahead of Miami for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, and then nobody plays, and then all of a sudden and then it flips? How does that happen? Well, Miami beat Notre Dame. Well, yeah, they beat them 3 weeks ago, too, and 4 weeks ago, and 5 weeks ago, but that didn't matter to you then, but now it does. And then I'm an SEC guy, but absolutely reeks of shenanigans that Alabama gets in the ESPN college football playoff tournament when Alabama really had no business, in my opinion, being in. They had, -3 rush yards against Georgia? In the college football playoff, you'd like to think, hey, these teams have not only earned it, but we think that they can win a national championship. Alabama's not winning a national championship.
No,
not winning
they're
a
not.
national championship.
But neither is James Madison, neither is Tulane. But the whole reason I think that Alabama got in is obvious. I mean, all of the big conferences, they don't want their conference championship games to be meaningless, or how about that? Not to be meaningless. I'm sorry, they don't want them taken away. And Alabama was kind of getting punished or they would have been punished for playing in that game, right? So I think that's part of it.
This is the way I would have disagreed a little bit with that and said, hey, Alabama, this is actually a gift for you. If you win this game, you're in. Free pass into the playoff. If you don't, sorry, you just hadn't done enough in the regular season to be in, because in my opinion, they hadn't done enough in the regular season. And the blowout loss, I don't think it should necessarily hurt them by itself, but you didn't get any benefit from getting blown out on Saturday either. If you want to count it as like a only good, no harm sort of deal, that's fine. But even then, I don't think Alabama was good enough to get in the college football playoff. And I think ESPN, I'd call me an old-fashioned conspiracy theorist, but I have no doubt that who you're in bed with, who your TV partners are, you're going to throw a bone when you can, right? Like, I thought Alabama had no business being in the playoff. And I don't think Miami's any good. I don't think they should be in. I don't think the ACC should have gotten any teams. I hate that James Madison and Tulane are in just because both are going to get absolutely blown out. But, I don't care so much. Like, if you want to have to throw a bone to a smaller school, I'm okay with that.
But how about just one? I don't think that James Madison and Tulane should both be
You see, that's where the problem stems from. This is why at the beginning of this year, I was completely like, there might be too many games being played. We might have too many teams in. But now to the point where there's not enough, because you have to at least let 1 or 2 group of 5 teams in, because if you don't, why even have football programs? Why would these teams?
No, you're right.
You're going to see like the Big East, and you're going to see like the American Conference. You're going to see the MAC. They're all going to die because they have literally nothing to play for. What's the point?
But they haven't had anything to play for. They never were going to be put in a championship game.
We're seeing it now in NIL improve these teams, and they get better and better and better. The Tulane has been a constant. It's under John Summerall has been a great team for the past 3 or 4 years. At this point, if you add more teams, right? Let's say they get to 24. Let's say they do I know that the Big Ten wants 24 teams. Let's say they get to 24. Yes, you're going to have a lot of teams from the group of 5 in there who just do not stack up against the SECs and the Big Ten teams. But every time, like I said before, every time a team makes the playoff, that's more money for that conference. That's more money for that team. And it's going to end up being like the NCAA tournament, like March Madness. In the past 5 years, we've seen what? 2 1 seeds get knocked off. The past 10 years, 2 1 seeds get knocked off by 16s. NIL is changing college sports forever. You're never going to see those teams get better unless you allow them to get better. So if you just don't let them in the playoff at all, they might as well just disband their group of 5. It's just 4 super conferences, and then we just move on.
Okay, but before the college football playoff at all, these teams were never going to sniff the BCS championship. They didn't shut down the programs then, producer Matt.
Yeah, but the bowl games actually mattered back then. Like, you had a chance to make a BCS bowl in a group of 5 in a smaller conference. Now bowl games don't matter.
They can matter if you want them to matter. They matter as much as they do. Beauty in the eye of the beholder. Bowl game in the eye of the beholder. I get what you're saying. And at the end of the day, if you want to have a caveat, hey, small team gets this accomplishment, you get a chance to get your brains beaten in. Whatever, that's fine. You just got to get to 16 teams, right? No team should have a first-round bye. Let's just get to 16. If you want to throw 2 bones to the 1 and the 2 seed, so that's basically a bye game to get them to the quarterfinals, I'm okay with that too. I was pretty bummed. I knew they weren't going to make it, but it just sucks we're not going to get Diego Pavie in the college football playoff. He's such a lightning rod, and I think Vandy's good where they could have made some noise. So I was bummed with that, but all around, not the committee's best job. And I do think the future of Bulls, the future
Vandy
of
not
college
being in
football,
that's a tragedy to college football.
It's hanging in the balance. One texter thinks we see JQ tomorrow, which would be interesting. We'll talk more about that tomorrow at noon. This is Kentucky Roll Call on Big X Sports Radio. Producer Matt Childer, Stephen Peak, I'm TJ Walker. Have a great Monday.
The Big X, AM 1450 and 96.1 FM, WXVW Jeffersonville. W230CK Jeffersonville.
John Spears for M&M Cartage. You see those trucks riding down the road with the M&M Cartage sign? You could be a driver or work as a mechanic on one of those trucks for 45 years.